There we go. All right. Welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic, issue, I don't even know, 7,302. Nah. Been doing this for a long time now, but I love it. I'm glad you guys join me every week. Give me a big thumbs up if you can hear me. Thank you, Marie. Thank you. Marie is my thumbs. That's my biggest fear is I'm just going to be talking away. Y'all can't hear a word I'm saying. So I like to check in every now and then. So my name's Shauna Sue. I own Crooked Door Studio in Uptown Marysville. Studio's been closed for a while now, closed since the pandemic started. We'll get it back open soon. Fingers crossed, October. Got a couple private parties in October. We'll test the waters and see how those go. But just so you know, because I know some of you join me from all over the place, we'll keep this going. So even when I open it back up for public classes, I'll still Zoom with you. So you'll still be able to join us. So first things first, before we get started, I like to go through supplies. I always want to make sure I have everything I need before I get started. If you check out the chat feature in Zoom, I have listed out supplies that you need for tonight. I say it all the time, if you don't have something, wing it, it'll be fine, right? That's all part of being an artist, is going with whatever you have. That's how we learn and grow, right? We experiment and try different things when we're forced into a situation where we may not have exactly what the other person has. I also have listed out the places where you can donate. You can donate via PayPal, Zoom. If you need the address to the studio to mail me a check, to send me muffins, because you know it's pumpkin season. Just putting that out there for my bakers, Alicia, just putting that out there. Anywho, I can get you the address to the studio if you need to drop something off there. Supplies, address to the studio if you need it. If you need supplies, let me know. I have a locked cabinet in the back breezeway of the studio. The breezeway never locks, so you purchase supplies through the studio. Email me, message me on Facebook, get a hold of me some way, and I will put supplies in the studio for you that you can, and I'll give you the lock code, and you can pick them up at your leisure. No contactless pickup. So something to think about if there's something that you need. Oh, I know some of you have inquired about the fan brushes. They came in. I have a big old stack of stiff fan brushes. So message me, remind me. I have a couple people on my list, but if you need one, let me know. I'll put it in the cabinet for you. Okay, supplies for tonight. Here we go. Let me get my sign out of the way. Zoop. All right. First things first, inspiration picture. I always like to have an inspiration picture, and I'm very clear about this. This is not mine. I have the original studio's logo up there. If you see that little blue blurb, just something we pulled off of Pinterest. Excuse me. And I have down at the bottom, this is not my painting. It's inspiration only. So my painting may not look exactly like this. Your painting may not look like this. Your painting may not look like mine. Your painting will be uniquely you, right? And that's what we love about the art world, right? I can do my best to try to copy this, but it's always going to be different because I'm going to put a little bit of me in there. But I like to have an inspiration to go by. Oh, stand by. Somebody just messaged, said they can't get into the Zoom. Please help. Give me just a second and let me message her back real quick. I'll be right back. I feel like we should have hold music right now. I just put y'all on hold. I hate for somebody to not be able to join us. Give me just 1 minute. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Look at me, Andrea, solving IT issues from afar. I really can. I can do it. Okay, so got you. I see you, Andrea. Okay, so I have my inspiration picture here. Again, I feel like I need to apologize to all of you for that brief hold, but somebody wants to join. I want to try to help them to get them to join. So I'm going to take that and set it to the side so I have it to go by. Apron, paint shirt, something so you don't get paint on your clothes if it's something that you're really concerned about. The paint that I'm using, the paint that I know a lot of you are using, is acrylic paint. It's water-based, water-soluble. If you get it on your clothes and it dries, it's a real bear to get out. Murphy's oil soap is your friend for cleaning out dried paint. But the easiest thing is to just not get paint on your clothes. So apron, I do still have aprons at the studio if anybody needs an apron. Canvas. So I usually say, decide if you're going to go vertical or horizontal with your canvas before we get started. I think this one works really well vertical. You could do it horizontal, but then you have to change the composition of the painting. Up to you. That's what you want to do. But I'm going to stay vertical tonight. I'm going to stay portrait style tonight. I have a stretched canvas. One of the first things we're going to do is paint the background. We're going to get that base on there. Make sure as you do that, if you have a stretched canvas, that you paint that top edge, you paint the sides, paint the bottom edge. That way it looks like your painting is wrapped all the way around. Then when you're done, you don't have to frame it. You don't have to do anything else with it. It's done. You can just set it up. So apron, paint shirt, canvas. I have a cup of water to rinse my brushes in, halfway full, clean or cold, clean, cool or cold. It is clean. Cool or cold, never warm or hot water, right? Cool or cold. Brushes for tonight, I have my big oval wash brush for my background, so my big trees, my big sections. I have a medium brush. Mine happens to be a filbert. Filbert just means it's curved on the end. And then I have a pointy liner brush. This is my number 5 round liner brush. So I'm going to do everything with these 3 brushes. When I'm not using my brushes, they live in the water cup. So I'll go ahead and take them, put them in the water cup, leave them there. It's a good reminder that when I'm done with a brush, it goes back in the water cup with his friends. I know a lot of you like to know when to rinse your water out. I'll let you know. We're probably not going to rinse out till a little later in the class tonight, because tonight's a very earthy, very warm painting. So a little bit of dirty water isn't going to hurt the process. Might even help the process. But when we get to the very end, doing some highlights on the pumpkins, some highlights on the truck, then you might want to rinse out. So I'll let you know when we get there. I also have a couple paper towels down beside my easel to rinse my brush out on. Something else that I always keep, paint pen, just in case. I use this to sign my name with because I'm really bad at signing my name with a brush. So I always have a paint pen in my bag. Now let's talk paint. So the paint I'm using is Blick Student Acrylic. It's nice because it dries really fast. It's thin, but it's not too thin. It's really inexpensive, so I can buy it by the bucket. It has all the colors that I need. The thing to remember when we're using this, and I'll remind you throughout the class, if you're using student acrylics, they're going to be really transparent. So for the paint that I have, to get a nice bold color, if I want a nice brilliant bold yellow, I'm going to have to add white to it. All of my colors are very transparent except for black and white. Those are my 2 solids. Those are my 2 opaques. So keep that in mind and I'll help you through that. So on my palette tonight, I have white, yellow, orange, red, just working my way around the color wheel. Phthalo blue, just a nice blue. Phthalo green, I like phthalo green because it's a little turquoisey. Brown, the brown that I'm using is burnt umber. You may have raw umber. And Mars black. So those are my colors for tonight. I feel like I need to up my game and get a little more professional, and like Bob Ross does, run my colors across the screen, right? Little Van Dyke brown, little alizarin crimson. Okay, I say we get started. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to work through this. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I always start furthest away, top down. That's always how I look at a painting. So the furthest away in this, there's a really light blue sky. And that light blue sky goes down, we can imagine, about 2/3, maybe close to 3/4 of the way down. And then we'll get our ground on there that's brown. You might even get a little bit of orange in there if you're going for more of a clay, like a southern clay look, up to you, right? I'm going to keep mine pretty brown though, I think, so those pumpkins kind of pop on there. So furthest away, work toward you. Then we'll put our trees in, and then we'll start to work on the truck. That's where we might need the blow dryer. If you get some heavy tree leaves up in here and we're ready to put that truck on, we might need to blow dry. So keep that in mind. And then we'll start on our details. We'll get the highlights and things on the truck. We'll get some pumpkins down around here. So that's kind of how that's going to work tonight. So that's enough chitty chat. Let's get going. Marie, give me thumbs up. Thank you, madam. Thank you. All right, let's start with that big brush. If you have new brushes, and if you have old brushes, I always like to take them and tap, tap, tap gently in the bottom of the cup. If you have new brushes, they have a starch in them that keeps them nice and stiff from the factory in shipping. If you have old brushes like I do, they have a little bit of dried paint left over in them. So I always like to soften them up a little. All right, so big brush. Let's start with that biggest brush. Dry it off on your paper towel. And here we go. So we said we're going to go about between 2/3 and 1/4 of the way down, or about 2/3 of the way down with our sky. So anytime you take paint, you always go in the edge of the puddle, never the middle. You don't want to mess the whole thing up. So for my sky, I want to keep it a nice light blue. So I'm going to take a big old chunk of white, and a teeny little, right in the edge, teeny little squish of blue, just a little squish. And I'm going to put my sky on there. And some back and forth. Ooh, that was a lot of blue. I might lighten that up a little bit. Just going back and forth and back and forth. You notice I didn't mix it ahead of time. I let it mix on the canvas. I like painting that way because it gives me this really cool variation of blues. So it's not all one solid monotone blue color. Back and forth. My brush stroke is kind of like an infinity sign, but I'm picking it up on the corners. It's a really flat X. So this is always my evening reminder to you to breathe. Painting should be fun. It should be relaxing. If you start to get stressed, it could be a little challenging. But if you start to get really stressed out and it's not fun for you, put your brushes down, walk away. Know that I am recording this, so you can always come back to the recording later. Okay? It's not worth getting stressed out and fretting about. Sometimes it's just not your night to paint. It's a hard lesson to learn, right? You always want to power through when something's not going well. I do anyway. That's my MO. And painting doesn't work that way. If you try to power through, you just turn into a mess. So you see the way I'm painting this, I'm getting it just the way I want it, and then I'm slowly moving down. You notice I'm not jumping around a lot. Acrylic paint blends when it's wet. When it's dry, it will not blend. When it's dry, it turns to plastic, essentially, and it will not blend. So I'm getting it blended just the way I want, and then slowly moving down. I was reminding you guys to breathe and I forgot to breathe. I just felt myself take a big exhale. So you may be wondering, if we look at the original inspiration picture, why I'm putting sky on all of this, if the only bit you can see is right here. I always like to have that background on there because then it doesn't pin me into what I have to do. Maybe later down the road, I put a pile of pumpkins down here and I balance that out by putting a lot of trees over here, a lot of color over here, and I decide to not have tree over here. Well, then my sky is already there. I don't have to worry. So while you may think it seems silly to put background in there, I like to have it just in case I change my plan later down the road. Because as an artist, that's your prerogative. You change the plan as you go. So I'm hoping you guys all have your music up. You're jamming to whatever makes you happy. I've got my 60s, 70s, 80s, a classic rock cooking tonight. I'll transition into my Halloween favorites here in a little bit. But for now, 60s, 70s, 80s. And as we work on this background, I don't think I say it enough. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I'm glad you guys are here. Doing something for you. So again, sky down about 2/3 of the way down. And don't forget your edges. It's so much easier to get them now than it is to try to match them up later. So I'm going to step over here, get this right side. There we go. So always making sure when you're covering a big area like this, change the pitch on your painting a little bit, get a different view of it, move around it. It's not fixed in space there. Make sure that you don't have any canvas weave showing through. So I can see down here, I've got some speckles. I've got a little bit of canvas showing through. So I'm gonna get a little more paint on there. Again, in the end, you may not see that section because I'm gonna cover it with truck or pumpkins or something. But I always wanna start with that nice base so I'm not tied to thinking I have to put pumpkins there to cover up a naked canvas. Okay. So I'm going to take that brush, pop it in my water cup, give it about another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to transition into the ground. I'm going to paint my ground on there. Oh, stand by, Anita. I'll transition and put my ground on there, and then we'll take a nice dry break. Okay. So welcome, Anita. I'm so glad you're here tonight. So here's our inspiration painting for tonight. So we're starting with blue, little bit of blue and a lot of white, putting our sky, that back and forth sky brush stroke, about 2/3 of the way down, 3/4 of the way down. And then down there, that's where we're going to put our ground. Okay. Is that my Tawny and my Ange? Blow me kisses, girls. Miss you, girls. So another couple minutes, and I know you may still be working on sky, and that's okay, because I'm going to go ahead and move on and put the ground on. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. And then I'll give you until like 7:45 before we move on to the next step. So here in another minute, I'm going to have you pause if you're still on the sky and watch how we're going to put the ground on. And then you'll have until 7:45 before we move on. And this painting has a lot of little pieces to it, so I'm going to keep it moving tonight. So again, this is my reminder that if you start to get frustrated, that it's not working well, that you're getting behind, pause, put your brushes in your water cup, walk away, come back to the recording tomorrow, okay? It'll be on the YouTube channel. Feels so fancy to say YouTube channel. Super fancy. It's not that fancy. Anybody can have a YouTube channel. I'm not that fancy. Okay. All right, 7:30. So let's go ahead and put the ground on there. So the ground is, it's kind of a reddish brown underneath those pumpkins. I can't use just straight brown that I have because it's way too transparent. I have to add either black or white to it. I might add a little bit of both. If I add white, it's going to get very tan. So I might add some black to darken it down a little bit. But my brush stroke, whatever it is you decide to do down there, you could do green down there if you wanted for grass. Up to you. I don't know that I'm going to, though, because I like the contrast of the blue-green truck with all the orange. So I think I'm going to stay brown to stay in that orange realm, side to side. Our ground is side to side. So big brush. Clean that out. Tap, tap, tap in the bottom of the water cup. Clean it out. And I'm going to use brown. Start with some brown, side to side. And it's very transparent. So I'm going to start to pull in a tiny bit of white, maybe a tiny bit of black. Tiniest bit of black and white. But that'll make it much less transparent. So brown, tiny black, tiny white, side to side. And don't forget your edges. Wonder what happens if I put some orange in there. I don't know. I'm feeling crazy. I'm going to do it. I don't know. I don't know that it did a lot for me. But remember, this is your painting. It is whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to stick with that brown, a little black, a little white. And get my edges. And then we're on a pause until about 7:45. We've got about 13 minutes. Not worried about the canvas being dry before we move on. It can still, paint can still be wet. Edge. All right, there we go. I painted that ground pretty fast. Brown, the Blick Student Acrylic Brown, it's one of those colors I won't mess with too much because it's so transparent. If you mess with it too much and you go over and over and over, it'll start to dry and then it'll get weird. You'll start to get like curdled paint where it's half dry and it's super obvious because it's kind of transparent. So anytime I use brown, it's one of those things, I put it on there and I walk away. I stop touching it. And I remind myself that I'm going to cover most of it anyway. I'm going to cover it with truck. I'm going to cover it with pumpkins. But I have to have my base coat on there. So about 11 minutes, we'll move on. 7:45, we'll all come back together. I'm standing here analyzing our inspiration painting, thinking about where we're going to go next. Think we're going to put just the idea of some trees. Not going to spend a lot of time worrying about it. But the idea of some branches. And then we'll start to get some of that orange, red, yellow color all over it. And I don't know if I'm going to write my name on the back of my truck. I might write Pumpkin Patch. I don't know. Things to ponder. We've got about 8 or so minutes before we move on. 7:45, we'll move on. Kelly, you just got your first chicken egg? I'm looking for you and your camera's off. You have to show me. I need to see your first egg. It's so exciting. Oh, is it white? Oh, it's little. Is it blue? Oh, I love that. Are you excited? Some of my girls have started laying green eggs, and they're little. They're adorable. Oh, that's exciting. Little egg. So now, for breakfast tomorrow morning, you can have toad in a hole. Since do you know what toad in a hole is? Yeah? For those of you that don't know what toad in a hole is, you take some, homemade bread is the best because you can get a nice thick slice of homemade bread, and then take a round cookie cutter and cut a hole in it and pull the center out, and then put it with some butter in the skillet, that piece of toast with the hole in it, and then crack your egg into it. Toad in a hole, best thing ever. And then I always fry the little piece that you pull out. I always put that in butter in the skillet too, and then put a little lid on my toad in a hole. Well, that's exciting, Kelly. Congratulations on your first egg. Fair warning, I don't know if you heard me talk about this. It was either last week or week before. By the way, we have about 5 minutes before we move on. Before we move on to the next step, your whole canvas should be covered, okay? Sky 2/3, 3/4 the way down. Ground on the bottom, your dirt path ground on the bottom. So last week before I forget, I reached in to get an egg, and because I have new girls that are laying, somebody laid an egg without a shell. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. That's a stretch. Not the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, but it went pretty far. I went to reach into the box, into the nesting box, and I was like, oh, egg! And I went to reach in, and it squished in my hand like a little rubber ball. So that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her. I had to research it because I was like, oh, dear God, what is this? Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her. Just means her little chicken body hasn't figured it out yet, and she didn't have enough calcium in her system yet. So I gave it to the dog. She loved it. I gave it to Gertrude. I couldn't throw it away because it was a gift from my lady. It was a gift from one of my little girls. But at the same time, I couldn't eat it because it was weird. So anywho, oh, very exciting. Chickens. Chickens. My chickens make me happy. Okay. About 3-4 minutes, we'll move on. And I'm looking just to make sure I don't have any big wet spots in my sky on the edges. I've got a couple wet spots, but I'm not too worried about it. And I'm not too worried about it if it's a little wet, because I'm going to put tree on first, which is going to be just some random brown branches. And then I'm going to start with red, move to orange, then into yellow. If I have a little bit of blue wet in the sky and I add red, orange, yellow, if my blue is still wet, I might get a little bit of brown. I'm okay with that because this is a very warm, earthy painting. So if I get a little bit of brown under there, it'll be fine. That's why I'm not worried if I still have a little bit of wet blue in my sky. Can you tell over the years of painting, I've made all the mistakes? I've learned from all the things. I'm still thinking about Kelly and her first chicken egg. That's super exciting. Because you have these chickens that get to be like 6 months old and they're not babies anymore. And you're like, all right, freeloaders, what's going on? And then you finally get an egg and it makes it all worth it. Okay, another minute. And we're going to get ready and put some tree branches and then start to load that canvas up with some color. All right, 7:45, here we go. So I'm going to take my, we want this to look like it's a truck in the middle of a pumpkin patch out in the middle of nowhere, but there's a little break in the trees where he could drive out. I always have these stories about what's going on in these scenes. I'm a little nervous that there are so many pumpkins near the tires of the truck because I would back over them, but that's just me. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. I'm going to take my pointy brush, my 5 round, my small round brush, and I'm going to put just the idea of a couple branches on either side that come up and around the top of that truck. I'm going to leave blue sky here in the middle, though, because in my brain, that truck needs someplace to drive out of the woods. So I don't want to go completely across. But at the same time, I have to put branches every place I want those colorful leaves to live. Okay? Because in my brain, if I only bring a branch this far, I might have a hard time putting leaves over here if there are no branches for the leaves to live upon. Okay, so pointy brush, take your small round brush, clean it out, dry it off, and I'm gonna load it in that brown. And again, I'm not gonna put too much thought or pressure into this. I'm gonna kind of pull a branch up this way, maybe something here. That is really light and really hard to see. I'm going to go a little bit darker. How's that? That's better. Just putting a couple, the idea of some branches there. My tree just kind of started here in the middle of nowhere. That's okay. I just want to make sure I have some branches that you can see through the leaves. If the leaves don't come completely together in one place, you'll pick up a little bit of the idea of tree branches. So brown, I'm using brown and a little bit of black to make it easier for you to see. And you can see I'm not fretting about it too much. I'm just getting the idea of some branches on there. Leaving that gap in the middle. That's it. That's all I'm going to do at this point. Because I am probably going to end up covering most of that up. I'm going to take that brush, pop it in my cup. And then I'm going to clean my big brush out. And I'm going to use my big brush to get all that big, beautiful color up in there. So I'll give you a few more minutes to get some branches in there. Again, don't fret about it too much. You technically could do this step without branches at all, do the next step without branches on there at all. But I really like the idea of having them there just in case my leaves don't come together in one place. You kind of have to have the skeleton before you put the skin on, right? That was gross. Probably not the way I should have explained that. But you know what I mean. You have to have the backbone before you start to layer on top. So I've got backbone, kind of. And then next, I'm going to get ready and start to put this big, beautiful color in there on the left and the right side of the truck. So let's talk about the truck. Before we do that, I like to have an idea of where we're going. So the truck is pretty big, right? The truck bumper is down here on the ground. It goes pretty, it's pretty big. It's pretty close to the left and the right side of the canvas. The top of my truck is going to be all the way up here. So when I start to get an idea for where that truck is going to be, he's going to be pretty darn big. So I don't have to worry too much about bringing my red, orange, yellow over very far, because the truck's going to cover it. So I think the guideline I'm going to use is my hand. So I'm going to put my leaves in here, and I'm not going to worry about going much further to the left and to the right of my hand. Does that make sense? I don't have to put color in here because that's all going to be truck. So kind of a general measurement. As big as my hand on that side, and as big as my hand on that side, and then we'll fill in up here, leaving that blue. So we always start with the darkest color first. So I'm going to take my big brush, and I'm going to start with red and maybe mix a little bit of orange with it, and then go to just orange, maybe a little white, and then yellow and white. If I start with my lightest color first, my dark color will just obliterate it. I'll lose all my light color completely. So I always start with my darkest color first. So big brush, cleaning it out, drying it off. And I'm going to start with some red, maybe a little orange. And I'm going to do just flips, kind of just like laying my brush, just kind of laying it down. And again, I'm going to go in about as wide as my hand is. Ooh, I like that red-orange combination. This part of the painting, get a little messy. And go down to the ground. Again, just kind of laying my brush down. Maybe just orange this time. Ooh, that color. It's gorgeous. Same on the other side. And as wide as my hand. Get some out there on the edges too. Again, I'm just kind of laying my brush down. So red and orange right now. Then I'll transition into orange and a little bit of white. And then yellow and white. I have to add white to that yellow so it pops. So I get a nice lovely pop of color. And I gotta stop heading that way or I'm gonna lose my blue right there. And you can see now, if you look really close, because our paint is transparent, you can see my backbone branches in there. You can see my skeleton. So it's always important to have that first. You may cover it up, but it's important to have it in there just in case you can see through the paint or you didn't cover a spot. So you can see I'm doing everything in red and orange right now. Moved over to that side to do red and orange, giving this a little time to dry. Some of my leaves, they don't even touch they're not even touching the other leaves. They're just kind of hanging in there in no man's land. I'm okay with that. This is one of those times where it's okay to be messy, right? Messy is good. Don't forget to get some up at the top, some around on those edges. And now that I have my red and orange, I'm gonna wipe my brush off and I'm gonna go into some yellow and a little bit of white. Oh, that's pretty. Getting that pop of yellow in there. Don't forget to add a little white to your yellow. Everybody breathe in. Everybody breathe. You know, I feel like I want a little bit of color down here on the ground. I'm gonna put some fallen leaves down here on the ground. Not too many because I don't want them to interfere with my pumpkins later. But I think it's okay to have a little bit of color down here, right? If we're driving a truck through the woods to get to the pumpkin patch, you're gonna have a little color that falls down onto the ground. This is I will say this is kind of tricky because you have to know when to stop. You don't want it to all blur into one color. You want to keep those separate brush strokes, those different colors, keep them separate a little. You want to blend, but not too much. So I'm going to do just a little bit more, and then I'm going to walk away. Because if I don't, I'm going to lose all those beautiful separate colors that I have. All that, those variations of orange and yellow and red, I don't want to lose that. Yep, I'm going to stop. Brush and water cup. I'm going to walk away from it for a minute. So my guidance to you at this point is know when to stop, which is always tricky. If you feel like you're getting to a point you're not sure if you're done, take a picture of it on your phone and then walk away and look at the picture. You'll see it differently on the picture than you do on the actual painting. Your phone will pump up the contrast a little bit and you'll see it differently. I think that's part of the reason I love these Zoom classes, because of all of you, of course, but I look at this and I see it one way, and I turn and look here, and I have my phone on selfie mode so I can see my painting, and I see it differently there than I do here. So weird. Brains are weird. Technology's weird. Okay. So we're getting to the point. Next, we're going to start to put our truck on there. How about we take a good fat 15-minute break? So 8:15, we'll come back together. I want for my leaves to be pretty dry, so you might have to go to the blow dryer or pick up a plate and start fanning. But I want to start to sketch my truck on there next. And I want my truck to be a lovely blue-green color. Let's talk for a second about that. Why we love this. Why I love this. I love the blue-green color because it's opposite from red-orange on the color wheel. That makes them complementary colors because they're opposites on the color wheel, and they really pop. The problem with opposite colors on the color wheel with complementary colors, if they're wet, and you blend them, you get poop. I don't want poop. I want a lovely blue-green color for my truck. So I want to make sure my red-orange is dry before I try to add blue-green on top of it. So 8:15, we'll come together and we'll start to sketch that truck on there, and we'll break it down into shapes piece by piece, but I want that to be dry. So I think I'm probably going to pick mine up and take it to the blow dryer. And when we all come back together at 8:15, we'll start to sketch our truck on there. So it's going to be time to figure out what color you want your truck. Okay? Oh yeah, it's wet. I'm a heavy paint user. I'm off to the blow dryer. I'll be back. 8:15, we'll start back up. So take a break, get a beverage, get a bite to eat. 8:15, we'll all come back together. Okay. There we go. So again, 8:15, we'll all come back together. I am going to take this opportunity. We've got about 11 minutes. I'm going to go tuck my chickens in because it's their bedtime, and I will be back. All right, back from chicken tucking. Everybody all snuggled in. Always good to go do a head count. Make sure we don't have any wayward souls. So again, about 8:15, we'll move on. You've got about 7 minutes. I'm going to want to make sure, again, so we don't get any color mix poop incidents, make sure that your color right around here where your truck is going to go, make sure that's dry. And think about what color you want your truck to be. And while we have a good 5 minutes here, I'll go in and give everybody the chance to unmute and chat. We'll find out how Anita's doing tonight. There we go.
Hi, I'm fine.
Hello, Anita. You're good tonight?
Yeah. Here.
Oh, let me see. Oh, that looks good.
I still have to put in my yellow.
I was going to ask where your yellow's at.
I'm going to. Is it good? Is it okay?
It looks good, yeah.
Thanks.
What color's your truck going to be, Anita?
The same color as yours.
Oh, yeah. I love that green turquoise color. That's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty. Very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Ange and Tawny, what are you girls doing? Where'd you go? As Tawny sits her beverage down.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. What's up, girls?
My beverage is just ice.
Just ice?
Yeah. I eat ice constantly.
She has the best ice here.
You're an ice chewer.
Yes, I am.
That hurts my teeth thinking about it. I probably shouldn't have made that face on camera.
Still love you.
Wouldn't be anything I wouldn't do in person. In like random groups of people I don't know. I like to make that face.
Do you see my husband's face?
Where's your husband? Oh, there he is. Hi, sweet.
Upside down.
Oh, sweet. My husband was so happy. Well, I was happy to see you guys. My husband was super happy to see you.
Oh.
Yes, we loved seeing you guys too. Sorry, I keep muting it so that I don't forget to mute it back.
Yeah, you might want to mute it.
I know.
Okay, bye.
Especially me here.
Oh, goodness. Oh, I see Amanda and Dad. I see Dad with the pink blow dryer, making it happen. Oh, goodness. So, Heather, I see you and Kyle have separate computers now, separate screens. Has he been exiled to the other, or did he exile you? You're muted, baby.
Oh, there we go. Now we're in the same room.
He just has his own screen. Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
I'm so glad you guys are playing tonight.
Oh, yes. We're glad to be here.
Let's see. Who else do we have tonight? All right. So about 2 more minutes and we'll move on. Again, make sure that it's pretty dry where we're going to put that truck in because you don't want poop color. And I'm going to go in and mute everyone again. All right. Okay, couple more minutes. All right. Okay, 8:15. So let's start on the truck, shall we? Yes. Yes, I believe we shall. So again, the paint that I'm using is, I feel like I got serious all of a sudden. So the paint that I'm using is very transparent. The only solids are black and white. So I'm going to have to make a decision and either make my truck dark and give it highlights, or go really light and then make it a little darker. I think I'm going to go light and make it darker. And if you look at the inspiration painting, that's exactly what they've done. There's a light color under there, and then they've laid dark back over it. So I'm going to use green, maybe a little bit of blue. The phthalo green and phthalo blue, they'll give me a real pretty turquoisey color. And I'm going to add white to it to make it solid. So my truck is going to appear a lot lighter than it will be in the end, because in the end I'm going to darken it back up with some swishes. Okay. So I'm going to use my my medium filbert. So find a medium-ish brush. And I think we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to build up, because I know the line at the top of my bumper and the bottom of my truck bed, that's my horizon line. So this line right here above my license plate, that line is my horizon line. So that means this section, my tailgate, sits on my horizon line. And then I can build my truck up from there. So I'm thinking that tailgate wants to be about as wide. It's going to sit right there on the horizon. It's going to be about as wide as my hand. And then the cab of the truck, I'll build up on top of that. So let's do some outlines. So I've got my, let's just put some shapes on there. So I've got my medium-ish brush. And let's do just the tailgate right now. Just the tailgate. I'll put my fenders on later. Just my tailgate. And it occurs to me, I feel like my tires might need to be out a little further. Shouldn't they be under the fenders? Oh, well. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So just that square tailgate. So I'm going to use green, a little bit of blue. I'm going to stay dark so you can see what I'm doing. When I fill it in, I'm going to add white to make it solid. So what did we say? It sits right on the horizon line. About as wide as my hand. This is just my tailgate. And I'm real bad about drawing downhill, so I'm going to step in front for a second. Okay, here's my tailgate. Not going to fill it in yet. I'm just doing shapes right now. Okay. From there, I need to put my cab on. My cab is the same line as my tailgate. Ignore the fender. Ignore the mirror, the side mirror. I'm going to go straight up from that tailgate. See, how far am I going to go? I'm going to go pretty far. Maybe a little higher, a little taller than my tailgate. And then my roof is a lovely curve, a nice gentle curve. And I have to step in front again, I'm sorry, to get it kind of straight-ish. Didn't help. There we go. Oh, my truck is starting to take shape. Don't fill it in yet. Do not fill it in yet, because I want to put, it looks in this painting like they painted the window back over top. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave a gap. I'm going to leave the hole where my window goes. So let's do this shape again in the middle for the window. So I've just done the same shape, that gentle curve at the top, straight on the sides, flat on the bottom. And that's my window that you would see through to the windshield. I almost said dashboard. That you would see through to the windshield. Okay, let's do a couple more things and then we'll fill it in. Couple more things, couple more outlines. Let's put fenders on there. Or that's not the right word, is it? Yeah, it's the right word, right? Fenders. Anyway, the bump outs, the little side tailgate bumpy outs. So start right here at the top of your tailgate. And how wide are those going to be? Maybe 2 fingers. Bump out, burp, straight down to that horizon line. Let's do one on the other side. Bump out, about 2 fingers, zoop, down. Then I think I might put mirrors on, and then I'm going to start filling it in. The mirrors, they look like little ears. Look at them right above the tailgate bump outs. You need little ears. Zerp. And one over here. It's kind of like half of a heart. Okay. Now that we have that basic shape on there, let's fill it in. Don't fill your window in. So I'm going to use that same color I used to outline it. I'm using a green with a little bit of blue, and I'm going to add white to it. And that white will help make it more solid, more opaque. So if I have any places over here that I need to cover where I have that orange tree behind it, adding a little bit of white would help me cover that. Okay, so let's fill it in. And do you see the direction I'm filling it in? I'm doing that roof first, the roof of my calf, that gentle curve. And then here I'm going to come up and down. I'm mirroring whatever, I'm mimicking, I should say, whatever that line is. So if my line here is straight up and down, that's the way I'm going to fill it in, straight up and down. My lines here are side to side. Well, that's the way I'm going to fill it in, side to side. Oh man, those colors are magnificent. That blue green next to that red, orange, yellow. Woo, makes me happy. Fill my mirrors in here again. Yeah. Trying to decide if my window's too big. I think I'll leave it for now. Okay, I'm gonna fill my fenders in, my little tailgate bumpy outs, and then I'll paint my tailgate in. Again, as I fill this in, I'm mimicking that line. So let me get close. I'm calling it my fender now. I don't even know if that's right, but that's what I'm going to continue to call it. As I fill it in, I'm mimicking that line. So this curved line, that's how I'm filling it in. Curving it. I think I keep mentioning that because it's going to be important when we get to the tailgate. So filling in that tailgate, I wanted to have that inset square. So that's the way I'm going to fill my tailgate in. Using those brush strokes, the direction of my brush strokes, to help me get that inset for my tailgate. So I'm just going to go around, right? Fill it in until I get to the middle and I have nothing left. So side to side on the top, straight up and down, side to side on the bottom, up and down on the left. It's funny because I'm using blue and gray. My truck is all, or blue and gray, blue and green. My truck is all different shades of blue and green. I'm okay with that because it's an old farm truck, right? I'm okay that it's all different shades of stuff. All different shades of blue, green. we go. All right. My truck filled in. I like this side might want to be a little bigger. Okay. All right. So let's take another few minutes and fill that in. And then, ooh, we'll put some tires and a bumper. Start to get some detail on the truck. Start to put some pumpkins in there. It's at this part of the painting too that I always, I like to remind class that we don't judge it now, right? We're a little better than halfway through. I keep glancing at mine and it looks like either a sofa, a weird looking sofa, or some kind of a dresser. I'm not done yet, right? So I'm not gonna judge it. I'm gonna leave it, just accept it for what it is, knowing that when I get further in the process, when I get almost done, it'll start to come together. Okay. So let's take another few minutes. You know, I said I was going to go darker, but I don't know that I am. I think I like the shade of my truck. I think I might be okay with just doing some highlights and a little darkening. I think I like the color of it. I just saw your comment, Alicia. That makes me happy, right? It's so much different than like, well, this is crap every single week. Isn't that funny, Andrea? Once you see ears, you can't unsee ears. Once you see it, I see sofa. I can't unsee sofa. And I see sofa like from Beetlejuice, like something weird and out of proportion. And now I can't unsee it. So let's take another minute or so. I put my brush in my water cup because I feel pretty good with that color. I like how it's different shades of blue-green. Thought I was going to need to darken it. I'm not. I like where I'm at with it. If you need to darken yours, though, let it dry a little. Ooh, let it dry a little. I haven't talked about this before, I don't think. Let it dry a little before you try to go darker if you're going to. If you try too hard to change the color while your paint is still wet, you might end up picking up half-dry paint. We have this happen a lot with white. If I put a coat of white on and I go, ooh, it needs another coat of white, you gotta let it dry and then put the second coat on it. If you try to put a second coat on too soon, you pick up half-dried paint and you just end up fighting against yourself. So I think regardless of where you're at, if you want to go lighter, if you want to go darker, you might want to leave it set for now. You can add some shadows or some highlights to it in a little bit, but you don't want to fight yourself and pick up half-dried paint because that starts to get frustrating. But what I am going to do is look at it right along the horizon line, and I know I'm going to want to put a white bumper on there. A dirty white bumper might have a little gray in it, but I don't want to pick up a lot of teal. So I want to make sure I don't have any rolls of paint. Sometimes when I paint, or sometimes when we all paint, you get a roll of paint on the on the edge of a line if you have a lot of paint on your brush. So I'm just going to run my finger across that. Make sure I don't have any rolls there. No rolls of paint. I'm okay if a little bit of truck color gets in my bumper, but I don't want that little bit to take over. Okay. So you know what? Let's take a few minutes. I think now might be a good time to go rinse out and get clean water, because I'm going to put my bumper on there. I've got a lot happening in this cup. How about 8:37? How's that? That's 3 minutes. 8:37. Let's go get clean water. We'll come back in about 3 minutes, 8:37. And we'll put a bumper on there and we'll start getting some details. 3 minutes. Okay. 2 more minutes. So a lot of my friends know this, that I have a constant list running in my head. It's constant. It's nonstop. So my list right now is bumper, tires, pumpkins, details. Bumper, tires, pumpkins, details. That's how we're going to finish this out. It's my list in my brain. Bumper, tires, pumpkins, details. So another minute and we'll get that bumper on there. So again, making sure I don't have any rolls of paint there. Alicia, you look all alone. Where did your people go? I feel I probably wasn't moving fast enough for the mister. I feel that's a running theme. You know, artists, they move at their own pace. All right, medium-ish brush, nice and clean, dry it out. I'm gonna start with white because it's gonna be real easy to get too dark too fast. So I'm gonna start with white for my bumper. It's gonna be, I don't know, maybe as wide as my thumb, maybe a little wider, I'm not sure. But it goes clear across the bottom of the truck. Zoop. Boy, that means I have a really fat thumb, doesn't it? That's okay. I'm good with a big, fat, wide bumper. Okay. So again, just white first. And then you can decide if you want to dirty it up a little bit. I think I want to dirty it up just a little. Remember, a tiny, tiny bit of black will go a long way. That's why I started with just white, and then I'm just going to streak a tiny, tiny bit of black in there just to dirty it up, because it's an old truck after all. Okay, there we go. I feel like my truck might have a flat tire already. Feel like it's leaning a little. It's just sitting in a hole. It's just sitting in a rut. See, you got to make up stories, right? Okay. So my bumper, just a white bar on there. I put a little bit of black in there just to mess it up a little bit, just to dirty it up a little. Let's put tires on there. So it's up to you on where you put your tires. If we look at the tires on this painting, looks like they follow that same line down, the line at the bed of the tailgate. They follow that tailgate line down. So I think that's where I'm gonna put mine. Start small. You can make them bigger if you need to, but once you have big fat tires, it's hard to go back from that. So I'm gonna use black. I'm gonna step in front so I can try to get them straight. I'm gonna follow this line down. Right there. They're just rectangles. They're just black rectangles. And they need to be old fat tires, right? They need to be in proportion to the rest of your vehicle, right? So I'm gonna make mine are about double thumb wide. Mine's about 2 thumb widths. And a little taller than they are wide. Okay, here's one. And I'm using just black, but I have a little bit of white that's still in my dirty brush. So mine are a real dark gray. I'm all right with that. So about double thumb wide. There we go. I feel like they might need to be a little bigger. They're feeling a little small for me. Okay, I feel pretty good with that. Okay, so I think now, trying to decide, what do you think? Should we do, I think we should do pumpkins in the truck. Pumpkins in the truck it is. I'm gonna do pumpkins in the truck. Couple pumpkins down here in front. And then we'll work on some black detailing and some white detailing. And that'll finish us out. So pumpkins, orange, maybe a little red, maybe a little brown. If you can see through them too much, remember you might have to add a little white. I'm not going to add white yet to mine though. I'm going to hope that because this is a pretty solid color, I'm going to hope I don't need to add a lot of white to it because I want to keep my pumpkins pretty dark. So I'm going to use my medium brush. And there are 4 pumpkins back here, and I love that this one is kind of behind and then has these others in front. So I'm going to start with this dude here that's kind of back. And they're just basketballs, right? So medium brush, orange, maybe a little red, maybe a little brown, I'm not sure. I'm going to start with orange and red. And I'm going to put, oh, you know what? I don't have to add brown. because my orange is transparent. You can see the green blue through it. Green blue is a complementary color, which already makes it a little brown. So I don't have to add brown because you can see the green through it that already makes it a little brown. Set them down behind your tailgate there. So there's that one. I'll do another one right here. The way I paint pumpkins, everything starts from that top middle. So top middle, I'm going to pull like a parenthesis down to the left and a parenthesis down to the right. And starting back at that top middle, down, down, down. Let me get up nice and close so you can see that. So I'm going to do another one right here. Stay in the bed of your truck, right? Start right here in the middle, like a parenthesis down to the left. Back up here, like a parenthesis down to the right. Back up to that middle, down, down, down. There we go. And because I have a lot of paint on my brush, painting my pumpkins that way, I'm already kind of getting like the spines and the highlights in the pumpkins. Isn't that cool? Okay, this dude's kind of floating, so I need another pumpkin there in front of him. So I'm going to get close again here. So figure out where your stem is going to be. All right, right there. Parenthesis down to the left, like a parenthesis down to the right. Everything pulls from that point where your stem will be. So there we go. I'm going to leave them alone for now. I'll do highlights and things, stems to them later. But I'm good with where those are at for right now. Go down and put some on the ground. If I look in this painting, there are a lot that are down on the ground. Looks like maybe there's one hiding back there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There might be 6 or 7 down on the ground. I'm trying to decide how I feel about them near the tires because, again, I would be the one that would back over them. But the truck is sitting still and we're loading them into the truck, so there would be some on the ground. See, it's all about the story. So there could be some there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some down here. So let's see. I'm going to do one here. Left parenthesis, right parenthesis. Okay. And then this one, anytime you have pumpkins that overlap a little bit, the next one, change the color a little. So orange, I'm going to add I've got a tiny bit of white and a tiny bit of yellow because these two are going to overlap and I don't want them to turn into pumpkin blobs. So if I change the color a little bit, now they very definitely look like different pumpkins. They're not all grown together. Oh, hang on, my book just started. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my audiobook just started playing. So random. That was super weird. Super weird because my audiobook wasn't even open. Technology. Let's see, another pumpkin right here. You know, now that I think about this, I do like the pumpkins down by the tires because it keeps my truck from floating, right? Having the pumpkins down there at the tires, It sets everything, it sets my truck down. Oops, those pumpkins are starting to grow together, so I'm going to go a little lighter. Changing the color of my pumpkins just a little, changing the shades of orange. A big fat pumpkin over here. I want another one down here. Now I'm going to have 15 pumpkins at the bottom before I know it. There we go. Okay. So what did I say my running list was? Bumper, pumpkins, details, we need to give our pumpkins stems. Pointy brush, a little bit of green, maybe a little bit of white as well. A little bit of green, a little bit of white. Let's give our pumpkins little stems. Blurb. I'm just putting little ticks, little blurps. Because it's just the idea of a little stem. Blurp. Little blurp. You can get really detailed on these if you want and give them little curly cues and do all kinds of fun things. But to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm just going to put little stems on there and move on. Because I could spend a lot of time playing with these pumpkins and doing all kinds of fun. We could do some little jack-o'-lantern faces. We could do all kinds of fun stuff. But again, I know you'll want to leave here at some point this evening. But you can stay and play. You can continue to paint. Okay. Okay, so I think the way we're going to finish this out, I'm going to go dark and then light. Oh my goodness, brake lights. I need brake lights on my truck. How can we have a truck with no brake lights? I'm going to take my pointy brush with a little bit of red and do just little, I think I might do circles. This looks like little rectangles. I think I might do little circles. I might do a little red circle there. Zerp. And a little red circle here. Zerp. Yeah, little tail lights, little brake lights. This one just has little, they're like little red tick marks for little tail lights. Okay, so now I think I'm gonna do dark and then light. So with my pointy brush, I'm gonna outline things, but I'm not gonna outline everything. And I'm gonna let things be uneven and, don't know of a better way to say it. If we look at the outlines here, look at where the black is here. It goes up and over like we're gonna outline that window, but the line kind of breaks there. And I'm gonna do some outlines on the tailgate, but it's not perfect. Just very wispy, just to help give it a little bit of definition. So with my pointy brush and a little bit of black. So let's see, let's start with the roof. Oop, my line didn't even go all the way. That's okay. Come down the side here. Some little outlines. Come down this way. Outline that window. They're very wispy, very broken lines. Again, just helping give a little more definition to things. Maybe outline my ear. Outline my ears. Zerp. Zerp. The one place that you have to have a really nice outline is the top of your tailgate. That'll help set those pumpkins back. So I'm going to come right across here, across my tailgate, and set my pumpkins in my truck. There we go. Outline that a little. You can see I'm not worrying too much about it. All right, I'm not spending a lot of time getting super detailed, getting super worried about making sure all my lines are perfect. Just getting some wispy outlines on there to help define that truck a little more. Let's see, outline my bumper. Ooh, what do you think? Should we put a license plate on it? I think we should. Where's my license plate, right? Right there in the middle. Just gave myself a little outline box for a license plate. I'm gonna outline that bumper. So you know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm going to take a little bit of black. I'm not gonna completely outline my brake lights, but I'm gonna take that black and I'm gonna go right around the bottom. That'll help give them a little shadow, just like that. This one too, just right around the bottom. Zerp. Little details like that that make a difference, right? I might even take just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black and give my pumpkins the idea of spines. Just the idea of, so they don't look like basketballs, so they start to really look like pumpkins. So from the stem, just pulling some little lines down there. Come down here. Just the idea of little spines to help accentuate their pumpkinness. There we go. Okay. I think I'm going to take a little bit of black and I'm going to do a rectangle inside the tailgate. That'll give me a place to put a name if I want, right? Because those old trucks, even new trucks, right? They have that panel that's either set in or raised out a little bit. And it helps me because of the way I filled my the way I painted my tailgate in, because I painted it in squares. That helps me now because I can just follow one of those rectangles. There we go. Okay. Trying to decide if I'm going to paint my name on the truck. I haven't decided yet. But if I do, that's where my paint pen will come in handy. Because writing with a brush, I can paint with a brush, but writing with a brush, not my gig. Okay, so I've gone dark. Now I'm going to rinse that brush out. Now I'm going to go light. Let's get some light swishes in there. Let's get some light details. So my pointy brush with some white. I think the first thing I want to do is give myself rear view mirrors. So I'm going to put, now I can't not see it, Andrea. The center's in my ears. Right, so there's one. That'll help it look like a mirror. And over here, just filling the center of that mirror in. And now with that little bit of white on my brush, you get a little swishy highlight on the top of my truck. A little swish of white right here along my tailgate. A swish of white there. Little swish of white on top of my my little fender bumpy outs. Ooh, a little swish of white on top of my mirrors. I'm even gonna do little white crisscrosses on my tires to make it look a little like tread. There we go. Little crisscrosses there. Ooh, I need little highlights in my tail lights. So if I do shadow, bottom and left, highlight is top and right. So for my tail lights, I did shadow, bottom and left. So highlight would be top and right. Zerp. There we go. I might do a little bit of white, little diagonal shushes, little diagonal scribbles here to make this look a little more like a window. Like the light is glinting off of it. You know what I did there? Little diagonal. And then because I did dark spines in my pumpkins, I might do some little highlights on my pumpkins. Zerp. Oh yeah, I like that. I like those little pumpkin highlights. So you can spend as much time on this detailing as you want. You can put your brush down and come back to it tomorrow. You can go crazy in your details. Entirely up to you on how far you want to go. But I think I'm probably going to call it. I like where I'm at. The original painting, if I look at it, they've done like some green leaves. There's a name across there. They wrote Happy Fall on their license plate. The only place where I don't agree with this painting is they have light under the truck. They've done like white swishes under the truck. Don't necessarily agree with that because it's under the truck, so it would be in shadow. But that's up to you, right? It's your painting. If you feel like the light is shining through and you get some light under your truck, well, then you go right on ahead. But I feel pretty good with where I'm at. I like that. And I might take my paint pen and write Crooked Door Studio right across there. But for now, I do believe I'm going to call it 9:03. It's always my goal to be done right around 9 o'clock. Again, to be respectful of everyone's time. You can stay and paint as long as you want. Get all those fine details in there, whatever makes you happy. But I think I'm gonna call mine done. So 9:05, we'll call this painting complete. By 10:05, please send me, that gives you an hour. Please send me a picture of you with your painting, a selfie of you with your painting. And at 10:05, all the pictures that I have, I will collage them all together and put them together in a little group video. Because if we were together at the studio, we'd all gather at the end of the studio and take a group picture. But we don't have that since we're all virtual tonight. But we can put together a little group video. So by 10:05, private message your picture to the studio. We already have our painting chosen for next week. It's our pumpkin. So I'm super excited about that. That's what I know. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I will go on in just a minute and unmute and give you the chance to unmute, and we can talk a little if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Okay. So for everybody that's watching this via the recording, thank you so much for joining me, Shauna Sue from Crooked Door Studio, for painting through the pandemic. And I will see y'all next time.